you fine people out there in YouTube land, it is review time for the Lionel A-6 Atlantic. This engine is legacy equipped. It is also equipped with the Bluetooth control system and whistle steam effects. Now before we get too far into all of that, let's look at some of the aesthetic features of the engine. You can see it's got a gorgeous black paint scheme with the graphite smoke box. Take a look at the pilot, the front end of the engine. You see number boards there, the X3002. The number boards on the side of the headlight are illuminated. The marker lights along the side of the boiler are illuminated. A non-functioning scale coupler on the pilot. And very well done hand railing along the border or the boiler, which the hand railing is also the antenna for the TMCC, legacy, and Bluetooth control systems. This engine is not quite loaded to the nines with separately applied detailing, but there is more than enough of the separately applied detailing. And the cast-on detailing on this engine is actually very clean and looks very sharp. You can see the valve gear on the drivers. It's very well done. My only complaint with this engine is the high sheen of the pilot wheels. Other than that, I think this engine is fantastic. The builder's plate there on the smoke box is actually legible, as you can see there. Has the order number along with the builder itself, when it was built, and of course where it was built in the good old US of A, the real one. As I mentioned in the unboxing, try to do a little bit better job of highlighting it, but right there beside the separately applied whistle detail is the hole in the boiler for the steam, the whistle steam that shoots out when you blow the whistle. I also want to mention that, like every other modern steam locomotive Lionel produces, this engine does have a fan-driven smoke unit that is synchronized with the sound system. Moving down here along the firebox, the ash pan, whatever you want to call it, you can see all this cool separately applied piping. The graphite paint on the firebox itself. You heard me reference a firebox earlier in the video. I should have called it a smoke box. That would have been the proper terminology. The lettering and classification markings on the side of the cab there are first rate. You can see there right underneath the 3, the A6, that denotes the class of the engine, and then that is just a bunch of other random stuff that the mechanical forces use to properly identify the engine whenever it came in for servicing. Here we have the crew members. We are on the fireman side of the engine. The engineer side of the engine looks identical, minus the big pumps there. And as I said in the unboxing, the interior detailing in the cab is not, it's not the highest level of detailing I've ever seen, but it is definitely far from the, like bare minimum basics that you see with like the beginner train sets. The tender is very well done. The front end of the tender by the cab is rather Spartan, but then again, this is an oil fired locomotive, so there's not going to be a whole lot to represent here with the details. Between the engine and the tender, you see the wireless tether that just sits right there on top of the drawbars between the engine and the tender. The trucks on this engine are an arch bar type with the frictionless bearings. You can see the piping for the air brake system all along the bottom of the tender. More markings along the tender. Very well done, very legible markings. I have to give Lionel the an absolute thumbs up for that. Coming up along the top side of the tender, you can see the hatch for the oil bunker, for the fuel oil bunker, and then we have these two small hatches here for the water tank. They actually open. That is your volume control, your manual volume control, and the other one is nothing. Here we see some of the most famous words in railroading. Very well done lettering, very opaque, very crisp lettering. There's not a whole lot of bleed through. I haven't noticed any bleed through. We find on the very rear of the tender the rear headlight. This engine does have directional lighting. The number boards along the side of the headlight light up. They are illuminated. There are no marker lights on the rear of the tender. There would have been on the real locomotive, but the engine itself is a high enough quality as it sits that I'm not going to complain too much about that. And then of course on the very rear of the tender we find the number, the engine number, and then right there the 9,000 gallons of water and a separately applied coupler cut lever. On the very rear pilot we'll find the Lionel electro coupler that is controlled by either DCS, Bluetooth, or Lionel TMCC or legacy control systems. Now with that being said, I've got a short train on the track for it. Let's run this thing.
Outbound. Over. Negative. Hold your position. Over. Yes, sir. Let me know when I'm clear. Out. Tower, trying to hold our schedule. Any plan yet? Over. Roger that. Take the green. Over. Thank you, sir. Clear to move. Out. The water's just about empty. We are at restricted speed. Out. This is the dispatcher. Switch your line. You're clear inbound. Over. Yes, sir. Clear boards. Out. Go to sign the register book,